All right, so this is a going to be a wonderful interview with Thomas Young of Rocket Dollar. I know he doesn't look old enough to even have a retirement account, and yet he's one of the founders of a business of retirement accounts. Now, thankfully, I do not have to do the disclosure because this is not technically an investment. And we'll get into what Rocket Dollar actually does. I do have a link that's next to this video. It is an affiliate link, so I do use their services in full disclosure, and you'll find out why. But Thomas, thank you for helping me out doing this video. How are you today?
Hey, first of all, thank you for having me, and thanks for the trust. I'm doing great. I'm in my living room in the middle of this COVID pandemic, as we all are, but doing great and happy to be here.
Good. Can you give a little bit of backstory in terms of how the heck did you get into retirement accounts, and then we'll get into exactly what Rocket Dollar is.
Sure. Well, it was completely by accident that I landed in the self-directed space and especially the world of solo 401ks and self-directed IRAs. I actually just randomly met a guy that I worked for when I was in college doing something called TaskRabbit, which is basically an Uber for odd jobs. So if you need IKEA furniture assembled or anything like that, and he hired me just randomly out of the blue, and I started working for him again and again and again. And he was a real estate investor who sort of had a side business that sold these types of it was primarily solo 401ks. And so when I left college, I worked another job for a little while, and then he called me up out of the blue one day and offered me a job, and I needed to make money, and so I kind of just accepted on the phone right then and there, and dove into the world of retirement, knowing absolutely nothing, and not even, I mean, I'd never thought about a retirement account before. And through the process of working with him, I learned how powerful these accounts are. And then sort of as we worked together, I realized that I wanted to do this, but with a really heavy tech aspect to it. I mean, I'm in Austin, Texas, and so tech is sort of central to everything here. And I knew that I wanted to build a product. I wanted to use this really powerful product and combine it with really good technology to make it really easy and really safe to use these accounts. And so that's kind of how Rocket Dollar was born.
Okay. So Rocket Dollar, again, deals with retirement accounts, but there's an interesting niche about what makes these retirement accounts unique. So can you expand on what it is that you guys do?
Absolutely. So what Rocket Dollar does differently than your Schwab or your Fidelities of the world, which are IRAs, is that we basically set up a type of IRA, a type of 401k, solo 401k for an individual that allows you to invest in anything allowed by the IRS. And the way we do that is that we set up a special purpose LLC for an IRA or a trust account for a solo 401k, and then you are in charge of that account. And really the big difference is how we make money. So we make money from setting up the account, not from what we allow you to invest in with the account. That's sort of the big distinction, because if you go to Schwab, they'll set up an account for free for you, but then they'll make money off the 12 or 15 funds that they allow you to invest in. And we basically set up the account for you and then give you full control of the account. And we're able to do that because the IRS really defines what you can and cannot do in a retirement account. Well, no, I'm sorry. They define what you can't do. And so everything else is an allowed investment. It's things that you can do that other providers just don't let you do because they have a certain business model. And so we just sort of flipped it on its head and took an account type that was already around. It was already known in certain niches, and a lot of times in real estate, or a lot of times in precious metals. And we just are trying to bring it to the masses and say, you can do more with a retirement account. You can do more. You can make more interesting investments, and we're just going to set up the vehicle to allow you to do that.
Right. And so what I love about this is This is self-directed IRA. Yourself is directing where you can do the investments. Now, I always had a quote unquote self-directed IRA with the Schwab's, Fidelities, Vanguards of the world. But as Thomas mentioned, it had to be within their sphere of where they made money. And so even though I was allowed to pick my individual stocks or the individual mutual funds, that's only one asset class. And as these other videos are showing on this webpage, there's a whole other world of alternative investment assets that Rocket Dollar allows you to invest in. Okay. Now you mentioned that the IRS says that there are things that you cannot invest in, and that list is relatively short. Can you touch on, I think it's what, 5 or 6 things that you can't invest in? Am I correct on that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. The list is short, and it's collectibles. So, for example, even though a classic car could be a fantastic investment, you are not allowed to buy a classic car with your retirement account. Same thing with wine. Wine can be a fantastic investment. Can't do it with a retirement account. Uh, Strangely enough, it lists rugs, so you can't do rugs. You cannot do life insurance within an IRA. There's some ways to do it within a solo 401k, but we sort of advise to steer clear of life insurance inside of the account. And then there's a certain group of people that you can't invest in. So for example, if I go out and buy a rental property with my self-directed retirement account through Rocket Dollar, which is a great investment, you can go out and buy a single family home and rent it out, and all of the rent goes into your IRA. It's amazing. But I can't rent it to certain members of my family. So for example, I can't buy the house next door and then rent it to my dad, or rent it to my spouse, or rent it to my kids. So those are just disallowed persons. But I can rent it to you, and all of the rent that you pay me would flow right back into my IRA. Wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. I mean, it's a great cash flowing investment. So even though you can do it, there's certain people that you can't invest in, and that's really kind of it. I mean, there's a couple other little things, but really, it's amazing all of the things that you can do, and thankfully, the IRS just tells you what you can't do, and it's pretty clear. So it's pretty easy to stay within the rules, and that's really kind of our main goal, is making sure that people just understand the rules and stay within the rules.
Got it. Now, and I want to touch on all of these other, as I said, all of these other videos that are there. They are investable assets that you can do through a self-directed IRA. Now, one other thing that I really like about what Rocket Dollar does is what you guys call checkbook control. Can you define what that is and how that compares to some of these other companies that do, that you're competing with in this IRA world?
Sure. So specifically in the IRA, and we can touch on the solo 401k later, but specifically in the IRA, there's different, it's almost like levels of self-directed, right? There's the self-directed that we mentioned earlier where, you can self-direct into their funds, which is the quasi self-directed. You can self-direct into what they let you self-direct into, which isn't really very exciting. And then there's a little bit up the pyramid, there's self-directed where if I want to go make a private investment into a startup, into a fund, into a multifamily deal, I have to get on the phone. I have to call my custodian who holds my IRA, and I have to go through their whole process in order to make an investment. And they're going to bill me for the phone call. They're going to bill me for the wire transfer. They're going to bill me for the due diligence. And it's just going to take me a lot of time. Ultimately, I'll be able to get the deal done, but it's not really an easy process. And so we took it one step further where we actually have what we call checkbook control, which means that your retirement money, your IRA money, lands literally in a checking account that you control. So the way it works is you open a Rocket Dollar account, then we open the IRA, which is a custodial account always. And then we direct that custodial account to invest in a single member LLC that is owned by the IRA. And then you as the customer, or as the investor, are the manager of that LLC. And so all of your money is in a business checking account and you make investments out of that LLC account. So you basically have literally a checkbook that you make an investment in. So the classic case, let's say you want to invest in a startup. You go through their due diligence, you decide this is an investment I want to make. When you get the paperwork, you title it in the name of that LLC that we've set up for you, that's funded with your IRA money, and you write a check and you hand it to the entrepreneur or to whoever's taking your money. And that's it. There's no calling the custodian. There's no asking for permission. There's no, it's like you were using your personal checking account to make the investment, except it's all protected under the retirement account umbrella. So it really just takes a lot of the back and forth of dealing with, the being on hold with a custodian, the whether they'll even let you do it or not. And the nice thing is that we've done is that, we do have a team, because it is so, open, right? You can literally write a check. If there's ever any doubt, our team is here to just check out the investment, make sure. We're not gonna advise you on whether it's a good investment or not. All we're gonna tell you is whether it's legal and protected under what you can do with an IRA. But we're not telling you, oh, we think this is a bad investment, this is a good investment. That's totally up to each individual.
Yeah, right. So ultimately the responsibility falls back on you, but you don't have to go in front of the committee. You don't have to wait. You're just like, I've got these checks. I've got money in there. Here's an investment I want to do. Write the check, mail it, done. Provided that it's not rugs, wine, cars, anything like that.
Right, exactly.
Now, now you keep on mentioning IRAs, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the legal and tax technicalities of an IRA versus a 401k, but there are some distinct advantages of doing this solo 401k. Solo meaning a one-person 401k. Can you just, again, real high level, just touch on what are some of the advantages of what you guys do with that solo 401k?
Sure. So for starters, the reason we even have two products, the IRA and the solo 401k, is because not everybody qualifies for a solo 401k. So if you are a W-2 employee and you don't make what's called self-employed income, whether as a sole proprietor or as an LLC, you qualify for the IRA. And the IRA is a fantastic product. It basically is for everybody. But for a certain group of people that have self-employed income, they work for themselves or they have side consulting projects or what have you, they qualify for what's called a solo 401k. The solo 401k was made sort of around the same time, a little later than the 401k, and it was really made in response to people that were self-employed going, I don't have a retirement solution. What do I do? And so the solo 401k was sort of created. And the biggest advantage that the solo 401k has over an IRA is that it has incredibly high contribution limits for an individual compared to an IRA. It's got the same contribution limits as any other 401k. But so that's one big advantage. And the second advantage is that it's really great for self-employed people because it has what's called the loan option. That's the two biggest distinctions between the IRA and the solo 401k, is that you can loan yourself money out of the solo 401k, same as any other 401k. But with the solo 401k through Rocket Dollar, it's really easy. You fill out one piece of paperwork and you can loan yourself money, half the value of the plan, up to $50,000, and pay yourself back over time. So it's a great line of credit, sort of personal credit for people that are self-employed or kind of going out on their own. In terms of what you can invest in, it's got the same bounds as an IRA. But yeah, so there's like we mentioned earlier, there's a whole rabbit hole that we can go down on the solo 401k versus the IRA. But at a very high level, that's who qualifies for it. And the contribution limits combined with the loan option, I think, are the two biggest differences.
Okay. And then the third thing is that you guys set it up. Not only can you have the 401k for pre-tax money, you can have the Roth 401k all in one, or all with one administrative fee, so you can have the after-tax money as well, and have that all combined together. So
Right,
that,
right. If you come to us and you want a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, please continue.
Yeah, so the cool thing about the solo 401k is that there's one what's called a plan document, and that's basically the trust document for the 401k. And within that, you can have traditional, Roth, post-tax. You can have like 5 or 6 different buckets, and that is all included in one sort of master plan. And then you have different trust checking accounts, basically at our partner bank. With the IRA, you either have traditional or Roth, and so it's, for example, if you have traditional money and Roth money, it would be 2 Rocket Dollar accounts, just because it's 2 totally separate things. But with the 401k, that one plan document covers all of these different things, and so we can get into the different checking accounts and the different structures and all that, but at its core, with a solo 401k, you can have basically every one of your buckets in your retirement account, which is fantastic. And it's just a little bit of paperwork, keeping track of everything, making sure everything's sort of clean, but it's really not a complicated product once you get the hang of it. Once you start using it and you make a couple investments, you're like, okay, this makes sense. This is not very complicated. And because it's a retirement account, it's probably not something that you're thinking about every day anyways.
Right. So we kind of touched on it before in terms of the Schwabs and Fidelities of the world set up an IRA for you for free. Okay. And whenever I looked at this in past years before Rocket Dollar came onto my radar, I looked at this and I'm just like, the fees just seem insanely high for what they're giving. And it was done with an assets under management. So if I was someone like Mitt Romney, where it came out a number of years ago, he's got a Roth IRA, which I think has a value of, I don't know, 10 million or $100 million, something absolutely insane. He would have to pay someone just to be the custodian, assets under management, when he was directing everything anyway. You guys took a completely different spin. So I'll let you touch in terms of the fee structure and how you guys do this now.
Yeah, and really it comes from, we wanted to come from a place of ultimate simplicity. And so instead of charging on how many individual assets you have with us, how much money you have with us, or for how many transactions you do with us, we decided to just take that all away, and we charge a one-time sign-up fee, which basically allows us to go to work, and then we charge a monthly recurring fee, which allows us to keep all of your plan documents in place, all of your your accounts in good standing. And we have 2 service tiers. We have what we call the Rocket Dollar Core tier, which is $360 to sign up and $15 a month, and that's it. No, nothing else. Or we have what we call Rocket Dollar Gold, which comes with a little bit more, we'll call it white glove service, priority phone support, things like that. And that is $600 one-time sign-up fee and $30 a month. And that's it. And, for a lot of people that don't know or aren't as familiar with the self-directed world, it seems like a lot to pay for an account. But when you start shopping us around, I mean, at my last company, I was selling solo 401ks for $1,500 just for the sign-up fee, and then $300 a year. And so that's really what all of the tech that we've built and all of the process that we've built has allowed us to bring the price down and make it a little bit more affordable. And then when you compare what you're paying in assets under management fees or transaction fees or all these different fees that add up over time, it makes it pretty competitive. And then when you consider the types of investments that you can get into that hopefully are better than just sitting in a boring ETF, it starts becoming pretty powerful.
Yeah, so I think this is just a great place to end it, where I realized I personally wanted to just expand beyond the world of Wall Street. And that, forget about, when we're recording this is April, May of 2020. the volatility has been extreme. Some people just might end up saying it's like, I don't have the risk tolerance to see all of this go up and down. How do I get this retirement money, which I might have a good chunk of, into other avenues, into other assets, to just spread the bets? And I will tell you, I did the due diligence. So, you know, I have Thomas on here. Yeah, he's telling you in terms of self-directed IRAs, and obviously I believe in Rocket Dollar, which is why I asked him to come on. But they are, bar none, the cheapest way to do this self-directed retirement account. I don't know who's going to be able to build the infrastructure and get it less, especially moving forward. I don't know if anyone's going to really want to compete with you. So, Thomas, any last words?
No, other than that, we're here and we're you know, sort of ready and excited to answer any questions that anybody has individually. I mean, like how he said, that you can just click on the links to get to our website. There's a phone number at the top. You can give us a call, talk to someone on our team, and they'll be happy to answer any questions. And if you don't know what the right account is for you, we'll help you go through that as well. And yeah, no, just thank you for the opportunity to share what we're working on, and thanks for the trust.
Thank you, Thomas, and stay safe, and we'll chat later.
Will do. Thank you.